Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to season number 2 of Learning Outside of the Box. So, I am Coach Sakile, the proud co founder of Embrace Your Free and host for Learning Outside the Box, the Homeschool Chronicles. As a wife and mother of 6 incredible world schooling children, I've embarked on a homeschooling journey that has transformed our lives into a mind expanding, family bonding, and self exploratory adventure. And let me tell you, it's a journey I wouldn't trade for the world. So, with over 2 decades of experience in homeschooling, I've had the privilege of assisting over 7,000 families on their homeschooling and world schooling paths through coaching, consulting, workshops, and more. Additionally, I operate the vibrant and empowering Black Homeschoolers Unite Facebook group, where we unite and uplift Black families on their homeschooling journey. So today, I am thrilled to present to you Learning Outside the Box, the Homeschool Chronicles Season 2, Episode 1. So, if you're a Black family who's curious about homeschooling or simply want to learn from experienced homeschoolers who are doing amazing things, then you've come to the right place. At Learning Outside the Box, we celebrate the diversity and creativity of Black homeschoolers. We showcase a variety of different stories from homeschooling families who have found their own unique path to success. Because let's face it, homeschooling is all about learning outside the box. There's no one size fits all approach to educating our children, and we're here to prove it. So, without further ado, let's get ready to challenge the status quo, expand our horizons, and embrace the endless possibilities of homeschooling outside the box. Let's give a warm welcome to the limitless learning homeschooler mama of 2 extraordinaire, Randa. So
Hello.
happy to have you, beautiful. That
Thank
was
you. I'm happy to be here.
happy to have you. So it was wonderful speaking with you before
Mhm.
because you're such a dynamic mama and doing some extraordinary things. So tell me, you are a mother to, got to correct that. I was adding more children on for you
No, but I
before.
said that's legit because I have pets, and that was like a whole other dynamic going into homeschooling. So it's like having well, like four. Actually, that's two dogs. That's a whole other thing. So you
That
weren't
is a
too
lot.
far off. You weren't too far off.
Love it. So tell me, how old are your children, the humankind?
My son is 11. He just turned 11 in May. My daughter is 9. She just turned 9 in April.
Amazing. Well, that's awesome. I love that they're close in age, so they're like
Mhm.
built-in playmates,
Oh
someone
gosh,
to
wasn't even an
relate to.
option.
No,
Yes. It was like I was like, I didn't do all this for you not to love each other. So yes, you will be best friends, and they are. He's at camp right now. She's like crying every night. So
Aw.
funny.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love to hear that. I love to hear about siblings that love each other, nurture
Yeah.
each other, and are each other's best friends. Because something that my mother-in-law told me is that you have to work hard to be your brother and sister's best friend, but it's
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
worthwhile.
Yep.
So worthwhile. It's really, really important to develop those relationships. And I'm glad that you are able to set that foundation at a
Mhm.
young age. So tell me, what inspired you to take this road less traveled when
Oh
it comes to
my gosh.
homeschooling?
Like that one question could be this whole podcast, but I will condense it. Like I said, I'm Southern. I talk a lot, so you just if you have to throw that finger up, like bring that in. But so it's so funny. I was a teacher. So when I graduated college, I'm like, what do I go do? In the interim, because my husband had proposed, and so we're like, what do we do? So I started teaching. My mom was a teacher. She's a master teacher. My dad was a principal. So I said, okay, I'll go into education. I naturally love to teach. So it's so funny. So when I taught it's so funny. I was in my 20s, and I remember after my 5th year, I said, you know what? I will never put my kids in a public school. I kid you not. I said, no. I mean, here I am, like before I even have children. I'm like, no way I'd ever do it. But anyway, to fast forward, I have them. And so I start, you know, because I have that background, and my husband is so funny. Both of our families are in education, like from professors on down. So it's
Mm,
a whole education background. So I started teaching in the womb, right? You can start schooling in the womb. You know, so I started
absolutely.
teaching. So as soon as my kids come out, it's like it's like I've been homeschooling since they were born. Well, kindergarten comes around, and my husband's like, I think you should let them go. And I was like, I don't think so. But he was like, I think you should let them go. Give yourself a break. So I go interview the school. I liked her perspective. It was great. It worked until it stopped working, which was
Mm,
there last year, which my son was in fourth grade and my daughter was in second. And
mm,
I said I will let them go, but I'm always boots on the ground. So I had been in the PTA. I'm room parent every year. So I get to see the school in a way other parents don't.
mhm,
And when after COVID, I saw just a huge shift when we switched, you know, principals, and just the world had changed. And I think kids had gone through a lot and they had changed and households had changed. And just the overall vibration of just everything around us had changed.
mhm,
And, you know, God bless that school. I loved it. And it got to the point I feel like it was no longer servicing my kids in the way that it used to the point
mhm.
my son would be depressed every day. And we're not a depressed
Oh,
household years.
no.
Like all of a sudden his
Mhm,
skin broke out. He was you know, and I don't mind navigating rough things but some things just become unnecessary. My daughter had, you know, kids in school threatening children every day, and it was becoming normalized to me. It was to a point where I was like, this is not my household. This is not what I envisioned. This is not the product I gave you when I sent them to the
mhm.
school. It's kind of like a toy. I gave you a great toy, you broke it. Yeah, I can't play with it anymore. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so it was time to make a change. And so I prayed because we're a Christian based family. And it was just so funny because I was ready to shell out all the money for a private school that I loved, that my daughter had gone to for preschool briefly when her brother went to school. And that we were ready. So I woke up that morning and God was like, go research reviews. I'm like, bet, let's go research reviews. It's going to be good. And then I noticed that the reviews were very similar to the public school. And I'm like, so now I'm going to pay for the same problems? I said, I get it, God. I said, I need to do a different school. Okay, it's a different one. So I went to look up a different one. And literally, I was downstairs by myself. And there was a voice that said, stop. And I looked around like my husband's
Mhm,
still sleeping. And he's like, why are you doing the same thing, hoping to get a different response, Randa? He's like, you need to homeschool your kids. And I looked around and I burst into tears because I was like, my husband was so anti homeschooling. And I was like, so you want
mm,
me to divorce? It's not like I'm getting a divorce at homeschool. Like, what is this message to me? Girl, I'm not even joking. Like he was just like, he was just so opposed to the idea of it. So, and it's so funny. We were studying the book of Moses, and I had
mm,
just told my kids, we were talking about how when God gives you a directive, you don't say no because you're going to come back around
mhm,
to it anyway. You know, and it always works out
mhm.
perfect. And I said, man, how he will test you, like how he will test you to live up to your words. So my husband comes
Absolutely.
downstairs, and I say, I have to talk to you. And he was like, what? And I said, well, honey, I said, I know you like to have an opinion, but you don't have a say so in this. I was supposed to homeschool our kids. He just looked at me and he said, I've learned when you say some things, it is what it is. He said, I just need a minute. So to fast forward, as the school year went on, though, my husband got on board, but it got worse. And he's
Mm,
thinking this just, aren't you glad we decided to homeschool our kids? Aren't you glad we decided to get them out this environment? I'm looking at him like, you're the one I had to convince. But it just started to spiral more and more. And
yeah.
it turned out to be a blessing that we did. Yeah.
Yes. That is an amazing story. I mean, it's your life story, but
Yeah.
that's really inspiring because I'm sure a lot of families, because people are chatting, that are having similar experiences. And, that is a big challenge. Like, what do
Yeah.
you do when one parent wants to homeschool and the other parent is like highly opposed to it?
Yeah.
Like, that can be a major
That's rough.
challenge that can cause a lot of friction in the household and tension
Yeah.
among the children, the parents, and everyone. So it sounds like you were able to maneuver, like, this is my role. My role is to like education over the children. This is and this is what it's
Yeah.
going to be. And I'm sure you've been dripping on him information
Well,
about like the benefits of homeschooling and
yeah, at this
the
point, yes. Yeah.
difficulties that are happening in the
Mhm.
educational system.
Well,
So, go ahead.
well, no, I was gonna say, well, what was beautiful about that is I didn't have to because it
Nice.
escalated so much. It swayed
Mhm.
him at the end. And so at the end, he was just like,
Mm.
there's no way we could have left them here. It's no way There's no way, without me going to jail, like having to be up here every day arguing. No, they like got to the point where they knew us. They're like, "Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Walker. So I know you heard what happened." It's just like they knew us to the point. Like he was like, "This is not good." So the situation actually shifted him. But then I did show him. I don't know if I'm able to say a name of a video, but the Homeschool Awakening. I don't know if anybody's watched that.
Mm.
When my husband
Right.
we had homeschooled almost a whole half a year or more, and when he saw that, we were all in tears, and he was like, "I get
Mm.
it."
Mhm.
So if somebody's having issues swaying a spouse, I would say watch the Homeschool Awakening.
Oh, that is a great tidbit. You hear
Mhm.
that, family? The Homeschool Awakening. Check it out.
It may even my son looked at me, he was like, "I get what you're doing." Like, he was always on board, but he's like,
Mhm.
"Mommy, I get it. I get what
Yeah.
it is. I get, like, the gift you're giving me." He's like, "I get it." So,
That's
I recommend it.
beautiful. That's beautiful when your husband's on board, but when the
Mhm.
children understand, because a lot of times families have the challenges of they're like, I miss my friends.
Yeah.
I miss the routine of going
Mhm.
somewhere with one teacher and having a hard time shifting.
Yes.
So that's great that your children were on board too.
Mhm.
So, we talked a little bit about your process of what inspired you. And you spoke about like one of the challenges of getting your husband on
Mhm.
board. Were there other challenges when it came to homeschooling that, you had to overcome during this process?
By way of entering into it or once I was in it?
Once you're into it.
Oh, okay, well, then that's a whole nother hour. No, I'm just joking, but, you know, hmm, homeschooling, it's so funny, having been in the classroom. I taught elementary, I taught 1st and 2nd grade, and then I taught 6th and 7th grade special education, math and science, before I tipped out and said, "There's a special place in heaven for me." Let me give it up to the teachers as we talk about homeschooling. Teaching is hard,
It
and the
is.
expectations are unreasonable. And
Really, they
people
are.
go in with the biggest hearts, hoping to make the biggest difference, but the system just to me, it works against and beats down people with that true love of educating kids.
Right.
Not teaching to a test, not, trying to make because all of that is really money driven, not
Mhm.
trying to make more money for the district, but these people work very, very, very hard. But, for me, the challenges, I think, first and foremost, and I get it now as I have, like, a year and so behind me, is just letting go of what was, right?
Mm.
Like, as a parent, you're thinking like, "Okay, well, how do I supplement that great," they bring all these little papers and, these cute little stories, and they color it, and they post all the projects on the wall, and you're trying to reproduce all the stuff, and, then you're thinking like, "Okay, well, did they get all of the subjects in, and did I do enough?" The hardest part in the beginning is just
Mm.
letting it go, and
Mm.
realizing that it's okay that it doesn't look like what they came from. That's the
Ah,
purpose,
right.
And people are so busy trying to replicate, or you're so busy trying to replicate it, you end up stressing yourself out, right? And I think for me, as open-minded as I was and understood where I wanted to go, it wasn't until I started moving through curriculums, and then, oh my God, let's not start on curriculums, but like moving through this curriculum and that one, and then just taking a moment to say, let's just stop. What is it you need? What is
Mm.
it what holes do I need to fix, first of all? And I think we need to understand, especially pulling them out of school first, we have holes to fix. Like, before we try and
Mhm.
get in and start pouring information in, let's heal. And I considered it like detoxing. Let's detox.
Yes.
My son was taking, like, we were doing this thing, and it was like, I guess it's scores or whatever, and he made a 60 something on it. And remember,
Mm.
he's in 5th grade now when he's with me, and he's like, "I'm so sorry I failed. I'm so sorry. I'm such a failure. I failed." We don't even speak like that in my home. And I
Mm.
said, "Where did you get
No.
that?" He was like, I'm so sorry. I could have done better." And I said, "Randa," and I said, "Do you understand a grade, this percentage is just letting you know how much you retained. So maybe what it is
Exactly.
showing you is that we just need to go back and figure out how to get a higher attention, because it's just building blocks." I said, "Don't make it any more stressful than it has to be." And that's when I got it, that, you know
Yeah.
what, let me work on making them whole again.
Exactly. And you're explaining
That is it.
exactly what the deschooling process
Yes,
is.
and
That
I didn't
is
get that. I would
so
see that
imperative.
term, and I'm like, "What is this deschooling, unschooling?" Like, you can still teach while you do it, but you kind of can't,
Yeah,
because they kinda can't learn until you get rid of the block.
exactly, because I think, of course, it's important for children to deschool, and I always
Mhm.
suggest parents to deschool their children at least 1 month for every year that they've been
Yeah.
in school. And then, but parents, I think that's where the work
Oh,
is. Like we
baby.
have this whole programming of
Mhm,
what school should be. Even if we like
mhm,
know that it doesn't work for us, we still
mhm.
want to replicate what
Yeah.
we went through. And so
Yes.
we have to start asking the questions, why? Why are we doing this?
Why?
What is our
Yes.
goal? What is our purpose?
Right.
Where do we see our children? What are our children's strengths and weaknesses? Like,
Mhm,
what is our teaching style? Do we
mhm.
want to do this for 8 hours? Maybe that's not, maybe we should
Right.
do 2 hours, you know? So you start questioning everything and figuring
Mhm,
out what works, what
mhm.
doesn't work. Sometimes some things you throw away, some things you
Right.
amend, you know, some
Girl,
things.
it's like an ever flowing, and I think that should be the year 1, like, just standard should be
Yes.
ask why,
Yeah.
question everything, ask why, question everything, and be able to pivot. The first year
Yes.
is simply you, like, dipping your toe in so many things, playing around with so
Mhm.
many having conversations, just saying, "You know what?" Even when I was a teacher, I would do that. I was like, Close your books." I was like, "Let's stop. Let's just talk." Because right now I'm seeing, like, children crying over here, like middle school especially. You're crying over here, got a boyfriend you're sad about over here, you're up here eating Takis and Gatorade. Let's just talk about what's going on in this room. Let's talk about
Mhm.
health. Let's talk about mental health. And even as a teacher, I did that. And I think
Mhm.
as a
I love
parent,
it.
you have to do the same thing. Just say, and let's stop. Let's have
Yes.
some conversations. How are you feeling? What do you feel like you're drawn to? What are you missing? Let's just
Mhm.
talk for a moment and
Yeah.
stop trying to make sure we're keeping up. And one of the quotes, I don't know if it was on your site or not, somebody had like put up little cute little animated blurbs or whatever. And one was like, "Mommy, are we falling behind? I'm falling behind." And the mama said,
Mhm.
"Falling behind who, baby?
Right?
Who? Who are we comparing ourselves to?"
Yes.
And when I saw that, I burst out laughing. I said, "Thank you, God." Like sometimes you just need to
Yes.
say, with who? Who are
Yes.
we worried about not catching up to or being behind of? Who?
Exactly.
So yeah, it's those
That's
things. So the
key.
first year I would say that was definitely what it was. But it was a beautiful journey though.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounds like it. It sounds like you, your husband, and children had
Mhm.
tremendous growth,
Mhm.
emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and every
Oh my gosh.
aspect.
Girl,
Yes,
it's
it's
it's real.
amazing. Yeah, because also similar to you, I actually like my children were straight A students
Yeah.
because our philosophy was like we'll do it until you learn it. So
Okay.
if it
Yes.
takes you 1 month to learn it, if it takes you 2 years to learn it, we're
Amen.
not moving on until you have mastered this subject. There's no
Love
one to
that.
fall behind. Like you
Right.
said, it's not like this set curriculum of time that starts in
Right.
starts in August or September and ends in May or June.
Yeah.
We have every day is an opportunity to learn.
Yes.
We are lifetime learners. So when you get it, you get it.
When you
And
get
so
yeah,
and
and
we'll
then once
keep
you
doing
have
it
it, the thing is
until
you have it. That's the
you
point, you
have
want
it.
them to have it, you know?
Exactly. It's
Yeah,
not just pushing
a box to
through.
click off.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So now that we talked about some challenges and some obstacles, let's get to the good stuff. Right?
Okay.
So
So much
what
good
have
stuff.
there
I mean,
are
no, it's like so much good stuff. Let's go.
yeah. So what have some of the benefits that you've discovered
Oh,
with homeschool?
man.
What is some of the growth or just positivity that you have discovered since homeschooling your family with yourself and your children?
No, and the parental part, definitely I was gonna touch on too, because it is a growth for the parent, but I'll just say for my kids, I
Mm,
feel like they are so much more joyful. You know what I
mm,
mean? Like, just joyful.
mm,
And when from the beginning of the year to, and we're not even done, we still like kind of go all year round. Like you say, kind of bounce around. But I mean, just different human beings and how they speak and how they talk about themselves, how
mm.
they talk about learning. I mean, that was a whole deconstruction process to say, you do love to, because my kids got to a point they're like, I hate learning. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa,
Mm.
whoa. Whoa. Like, because I'm always in a class, of course. I'm picking up books.
Yes.
I'm always in a workshop. I said, you have to love learning. So that was my
Mhm,
number one objective, was to get the learning back. And
mm,
now they actually are curious about things on their own. They're more mature by way, because I started school not even with curriculum at first, just time management. I said, let's just understand how to
mhm,
use time. They're more independent, and then they walk with a confidence in that independence. So now I have like a little swag with them now. You know what I mean? Like those are the benefits. And we're teaching financial literacy. So we have financial meetings. They have a portfolio. They're in charge of their money and their fine. So I see them go to stores, they make their purchases. I hear them like rationalizing with these stuff financially. Okay, Via, you got this for your birthday money. So what percentage are we doing with A, B, and C? And she's like, oh no, I think this is a better thing. Like having these conversations
Love
that would have
it.
never evolved. And on
Mm.
top of my kids, they thank me every day. They literally are there like,
Mm.
thank you so much. And I remember my daughter and I were doing language arts, and I'm pretty animated because, like, once again, and it's so funny. I'm learning while I'm teaching them because these are some things I didn't get, right? So I'm
Yes.
sitting there, I'm just like, oh, what with the conjunctions and the yada yada. I was like, oh, I get it. And I don't mind telling them. They're like, you didn't know this? I don't know everything. I said, so you guys are teaching me, and you see them light up. Like, man,
Mm.
I have something of value to bring to you. So I give them
Yeah.
those opportunities. And I remember my daughter laid her head on my shoulder. And every time she got one right, I was like, boom, 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 firecrackers, Via, you got it. And she was like, and she just laid on me. She was like, this is so awesome learning language arts with you. Like, who says that? Like, I love learning language arts with you. But it was just beautiful. And I sat there with this moment, like, nobody rushed to get to school today. No, we're in our
Mm.
pajamas right now. Sometimes we get dressed, sometimes we don't. It depends on how we feel. And here's my daughter excited about language arts and snuggled up to me and feeling like she's loved and feeling like she's
Mm.
seen and feeling like she's encouraged. And the benefit for us as parents is when you challenge your kids to open up their mind, it challenges you to open up your mind. So
Absolutely.
we have grown exponentially in what we believed we could have and obtain, and what we feel like we are not. You're not too old to go and take on, like, we're learning trading and we're teaching the kids that's like going back to college. But if it hadn't really been for us shifting our mind, I don't know if we would have taken that journey and said, this is very important. It's important for us to continue to grow as well. So it's
Mm.
allowed our minds to see the world in a broader scope. No ceilings, no jars. You just see it for all that it truly offers you. And so it's been a benefit whole, like 360 degrees for everybody, I would have to say.
That is so beautiful. Bravo. Bravo. I love to hear. That was really powerful.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm sure we have those in the group. They're giving you lots and lots of love. But yeah, your story and the growth and just, a lot of times if you're on the other end and you
Hmm.
haven't started, you just
Hmm.
you don't understand like
Hmm.
what happens, the growth, the love,
Hmm.
until you actually do it. But
You got to
you
jump
said
into it.
it so poetically,
I hope so. I
powerfully,
hope
so
so.
so you can really feel like, wow, yes, this is what it's about. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I wanted for my children, to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel
Mm.
powerful, to know that they have value, that there's something to give to the world.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter now, you have
Hmm.
value. So we always had our children volunteering, like
Yeah.
even as one, you can impact someone's life, or you may know something that someone else doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And being a lover of learning. I
Hmm.
love how you mentioned limitless learning. So
Hmm.
can you talk a little bit about that? When I asked you what your homeschooling style was, when we were chatting before, you were like, we're limitless learners. What does that mean to you?
To me, so let me preface. As a homeschooler, I was like an honor student in school, top of my
Mm,
class, my kids top of their class, no behavior issues, teachers love me, they love them. So it's not, I don't have a problem with education. I
mhm,
do have a problem with walls and ceilings.
mm,
And it's so rigid to where you can't just expand.
mhm,
Everything is an opportunity to learn. Every single thing. And I believe when we start putting it in such constricted contexts, it's no wonder that they're just like, I'm over this, because you're teaching them just a box. And after a while, you're only looking at four walls. That is not
mhm,
interesting. But if you break open that box and say, but did you see that corner over there? Did you look above over there? What's over there, that diagonal? What's below you? What's above? And then they're looking at the world in this whole, like, just well-rounded point of view. Limitless learning is when you see it in every single breath you take. If someone puts a pencil in front of you, what do you get from that pencil in front of you? What can it do? What didn't it do? What can you do with you? Just, it's about seeing your opportunity to learn in everything. And that's what I'm trying to teach them. You don't hate learning, because that means you hate living. You hate, it means that you have stopped seeing God's creation and you stop seeing God. Because when
Mm,
you continue to learn, you're taking in everything that makes him who he is, everything that makes him real, everything that continues to propel us and bless us in life so that we can be a blessing and be used. You're missing opportunities to be that full vessel. And I
mm,
want you to see it in everything. And so that is what limitless learning is for me, is to teach them that, yeah, a workbook is great, but how about if we close the workbook? How about if we go out, because we'll go to Target and we do financial literacy, or they'll go to the grocery store and I'm like, here's your list. Make the best financial choices for the grocery shopping. Compare
mm,
brands, compare
mm,
prices, talk to your sister about it, but also look at the ingredients. And so they're like, okay, well, see, this one is GMO, it's $2 more, but if it's healthy in the long run, maybe you won't end up having to take medication. So we'll pay the $2 more. Oh, but here's another GMO that's $1 less. Oh, better buy. Like you're taking it out of the house and the workbook and it's everyday life. So that's kind
mm.
of what that means to me. Very simple,
I love that. No, that's again
basic.
more just very powerful. You just dropping all of the gems. And I hope I'm scooping up. You see, I have like notes and notes that
Oh,
I'm
oh
taking.
wow.
Like
Okay. Well, praise God. I was like, Lord, use me. I don't know what to say, but I'm gonna just do what the best I can.
yes, so this is beautiful. I've like been learning so much from you. So, and I'm sure the audience has too, because like you said, every moment is the opportunity to learn. I
Every
really
moment.
believe in teachable moments. So, and if you're not learning or observing in a moment, it's
Mm,
like a moment that's lost,
that's
you
true.
know?
That's
And
true.
so tell me about how this is a big one, how
Okay.
you're able to balance homeschooling, life, career, responsibilities,
Okay.
relationships, all
Are
of
you
that.
ready for, but are you
Yeah.
ready for this answer? Because I don't think you're gonna like it. There's no such thing as balance. I'm gonna just set everybody free real quick. Okay. When you start trying to say, I can balance it all. Oh no, 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 you can't. Because there's no such thing as everything being in perfect harmony at one time.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
what happens is you start to balance a little bit here, and you give yourself grace where it falls off. So
Mm,
what you do is you do the best you can in these other areas, and you recognize that some things are not going to be 100%. And you know what? There's grace in that. And there's
mhm,
okay in that. And there's humanness in that. There's
mhm,
normalcy in that. Give yourself a break. Like we try, like I said, right now, I'm an actress. My husband, he works a traditional job, but he can work remote. We started this whole financial journey that has been like, whoa. And I mean, when you wake up and realize those things that you need to do, it's a lot of time. We have business meetings between he and I 3 times a week. We are taking educational courses that are grueling. I mean, it's some nights I'm gonna make you laugh. Some nights I'm up there on the class, I'm crying and typing, but I'm like, but I'm gonna keep going. I need to go to sleep, but I'm gonna keep going. And then the next day is fine. Like it will ebb and it will flow and it
yeah.
is okay. So the best thing my response to that is just give yourself grace. Um,
Mm,
and what you can do with that is also apply a couple of tools. So what I do, my goal is to make my kids as independent as I can with things, which frees up time for you, which is
mhm,
why I started our homeschool journey with time management. So the first thing we started is, here is an agenda book. I bet you've never had one. You don't own one. So let's talk about what to do with one. Here is what are your, so really to sit down, it was a process where I said, okay, let's sit down, because the devices, like, we can't do that all day. Then you have guilt as a parent with a device. So I said, this is what we're going to do. I'm not saying that what you enjoy doesn't have value, but what I'm
mhm,
saying is there are other parts of you to develop. So I said,
mhm,
so let's make a list. So my son, tell me a list of all the things you like to do. He listed 10 things. These are things I love. I said, okay, great. Now with each thing, tell me what you can do with that on YouTube. Tell me what you can do with that on TV by looking up documentaries. Tell me what you can do by way of arts and crafts. Tell me what you can do with each thing, so that when you get bored and you have your quote unquote downtime, I don't know what to do. I said, you go to this page. You said you enjoy animals, you enjoy building, you enjoy coding. So if you know on YouTube, you can watch this particular surgery on animals. Then on Disney, they have vet shows where you can watch vet shows. Then, with arts and crafts, maybe I want to start looking up shelters that I can volunteer in or create emails. I said, you have stuff to do. So you
mhm,
have to show them other things to do. So then what they would do is list out a daily thing. So we wake up, what do you want to get done today? I want to do art, and I make them very specific. My daughter, I want to work on shading. I want to my son would say, "Oh, I want to work on looking up shelters today, and I want to make sure I find places I call." So we list what you want to do today, and then I say, "Here are your items." Now, based on that, what time do you want to wake up? What time do you want to get your day started? How much time do you want to allot for each one of these things? So I end up with a full blown schedule that's well rounded that doesn't need me. And then they use Alexa to automate it. She might respond right now. And I say, okay, I was like, wait, I should have said Echo. And so what I have them do is I have them schedule like their alarms. Okay, go off and do that 45 minutes. Make sure you set it. I'll see you in 45 minutes. And it frees me up to do what I have to do. And then I have a
Mhm.
similar schedule for myself. So if you keep yourself accountable for what do I want to accomplish today, and it doesn't have to be the whole thing. If it's like I
Mhm.
got 15 minutes of that bookend, great. I got, 10 minutes or 30 minutes of working on that course, great. Because it's about the consistent small steps that you take that gets you to the finished product. And to give
Mhm.
yourself a break that you can't sit and read the whole book today. It's not going to
Mhm.
if you set yourself up for that standard, you're going to always be disappointed. But little bitty steps of forward motion get you where you want to go and get your kids where they want to go. So I've learned that over time, making them accountable for their time management, teaching them
Yes.
how to do that.
Yes, that is so key.
That is so key. It
It's
makes
like
a
you're
huge difference.
teaching part of my course, the juggles reel,
Oh,
and it's
okay.
and we talk
Because it's
about
real, girl. It's real.
the juggles reel.
It's real.
So and talking about the difference between like balance and
Hmm.
everything's not balance, but yeah, balance where everything is
Hmm.
exactly the same and
Hmm.
versus harmony where things kind of flow together, where you
Hmm.
have that grace, where it's
Hmm.
not like, okay, I have 8 things to do, there's 24 hours, so I mean 3 hours of this, 3 hours of, that's not how
Right.
it works.
Right. No.
That's not how it works. No, it's just like some things are priority, there's some
Yep.
things that need to get done today. There's some things that we can push off until later,
Yeah.
and just being in that balance and flow is really, really
Hmm.
important. And the
Very
power
true.
of delegating.
Hmm. Do not
Delegating.
be a martyr, moms. Do not be a
No.
martyr. I need to do all things. No, I'm gonna teach you how to clean this room. I'm gonna teach you how to see it through my eyes. Because I said, how would mommy, my room's clean? I said, how would I see it? They're like, I'll be right back. Okay. Then they clean it like I would see it. Like, so it's like setting those standards. You have to teach them what the expectations are and how to get there. And then, man, let me tell you, that frees you sitting back like, how did I get to drink this cup of tea this morning? This is nice. Like you get that time, but you have to put in the work first, but you will get it
Yes.
back in dividends later.
Fantastic. That is amazing. I know. I'm just like, we have all this positive feedback. Like,
Oh,
yes,
great.
powerful, powerful, powerful. So we have a couple more questions, and
Yeah,
then we're
knock
going to
it down.
open it up to our audience so they can ask you questions. So I want to know, talking about delegating also,
Okay.
when there is a subject that your children may need to learn that maybe you're not an expert in, maybe
Mhm,
it's playing the piano or,
mhm.
calculus 3 or I don't know,
Okay.
you may be great at that. I don't know.
No, no,
I'm
no.
just
Me and
doing
math are not friends, but I'm better now that I homeschool. I've been learning.
Amazing. So if there is like a subject that your children want to learn, but it's not your expertise, like
Mhm.
how do you go? What is your approach to teaching them this?
And I get asked this by a lot of my friends. They're like, "Well, I'm terrible at this," or I do see that in like a lot of the posts when you go through some of the Facebook groups and things. And it's so funny that never was an issue for me even going into homeschool because I believe because even my husband, he's like, I can just go ahead and fix that electrical. No, what we're gonna do is pay people who have a specialty in what they do. We don't need to do everything. So I kind of go, that's like my philosophy in life is I don't have to, I just know how to find good people. Let me find the best person at the best price for our needs and
Mhm.
hire somebody for that. Now it kind of, I will say twofold. I'm one of those people who loves to learn. So I'm always like in the mix too. Like if they're in piano, I'm like, okay, I know all my notes too. If they're working on scales, I'm working on scales too. But not everybody is that way. But so my
Mhm.
advice is first and foremost to realize you don't have to know everything. As a
Mhm.
teacher, when I taught in school, I did not know everything. That's why the books have scripts. That's why the books
Right.
have extra resources. Those teachers don't know everything, nor are they expected to. You're expected to follow the script, go to the workshop, they give you some more materials, then then they so don't put that pressure on yourself to think you have to be all things, especially as they go into high school, because if
Mhm.
you've done your job where you've taught them to be independent learners, you've taught them how to research, you've taught them how to seek out what they need, by the time they get to high school, they're pretty much functioning on their own. That
Yes,
part that part right there is real talk. Like, you're not even trying to
1000%.
navigate a lot of that. So, the goal is to put that work in now. It's like, even my kids now, I say, okay, like, if I don't know, we were working on greatest common factor and least common denominator. Okay.
Mhm.
So when I went to school, and now once again, I was an honor student, but nobody taught me my math fundamentals well. Like, I did not know those very well. So even when I'm teaching my son, I'm like, whoa, because I always look at the curriculum like the night before. And then what I do now is I use YouTube. There are
Mhm.
amazing videos. Like, literally, people are saying, why did you explain this better than my teacher did? Oh my God. Like, I have been in class and I couldn't get this. There are people who have said, you know what, I'm going to use my gift to help students. So I will look up videos and then I send it to their phone. And when they wake up, they
Mhm.
look at it on their iPad, their iPad, and they're watching their video. I said, watch the video first. Let me see what you get from it first. And then let's talk about it. So I use that as resources, or I hire good people.
Mhm.
And you'll be surprised, like, even if you ask some of your friends, people are expertise in other things, and you'll be surprised kids are so smart. If you show
Mhm.
them a few little nuggets, they put the pieces together if you
They
give
do.
them time.
They
So it's
do.
not even like it's so much like I was like, this is going to be so hard, greatest common factor. And we talked about it. I put it in a really simple way. And he was like, oh, is that all it is? And I was like, "Yeah, it is really." And so I said, okay. So I broke out the workbook. I said, just do this row. Because I don't also believe in to do a whole page. Well, why are we doing a whole page? If you can do 5, you can do 25. So let's just stop at the
Mhm.
5. So he did them. And I was like, you really get this? He was like, Mom, I've never understood this before. This video was great. And then with your one little tweak, like, I get this. Um,
Aha
so
moments. I love it.
yeah, those aha moments. And I mean, some days you have some days once you just want to burst into tears. So like when they say things like, oh my God, I never thought I would understand this. And this is like, I feel like I'm doing this for a purpose. Like when you hear like statements like that, you just want to cry. Like you just want to say, but I would scare them. So I don't. But because I was like, what?
Hey, Mom.
But you don't have to know it all. So YouTube has great videos. um like being on these Facebook groups, I hear great things from moms all the time, which is why I thanked you when you actually called me. The resources, get connected. Don't
Mhm.
think you have to be an island on your own, figuring this out on your own because someone's going to judge you because you don't know. Well, you took your kids out of school and you don't know. No, I don't know. That's okay. And yes, I did take them out. So will you help me or not? What do you got? So just don't feel like you have to do it on your own. You don't.
Nice. This is excellent. So now I want to open up the questions to the
Okay.
audience. So, family, if you have any questions, please let us know. So, I'm going to look in the chat. So, I'm going to type it in here. Let
Okay.
me know if you have any questions for Rhonda. Mm. And while I'm waiting for questions, can
Mhm.
you give me like one set of advice you would give to someone that's considering homeschooling?
Okay. One thing I will, and when I'm glad you asked me because I was like, man, I didn't really get to touch upon this, and I do see this a lot, which just break my heart a little bit. The pushback that you get for
Mm,
making the decision. Um, well, first of all, there's no room for that in my house. So when people know not to really push back on anything my husband and I say, they've learned that. They're like, okay, and they're gonna do what they want to do, or else it may not be the most comfortable conversation because we're not really big pushovers in that way. But trust your gut, number one. If you
mm,
feel like something is not right, and you see that your kids are not the same kids that you sent to that school,
mm,
when you first sent them there, they're not who you have created them to be. And because one thing I had to do is I always asked my kids, I was like, what's going on in school? How do you feel? And you have to really notice subtle changes in vocabulary, how they speak, subtle changes in
mm,
how they're acting in their behavior, subtle changes in their mood. If it's not normal, it's not normal. And then you have to say,
Right.
okay, if I can't leave them in and fix the problem, because I did start with the school first, I did
Yeah.
start with my requests first. But when it's just not met, because people, after a while, when you're immersed in it, you just stop seeing, and they
Right.
stop seeing how detrimental it is because it becomes normalized. Then
Mm,
trust your gut and take your kid out. If other people have things to say, you have to realize, number one, you put up a blocker and say, it is not up to you.
yeah.
And you have to stop leaving that as a doorway, a line of communication for people to be able to dump that. There is no
Yeah.
opening for that.
Yeah.
What works for
Because.
your house works for your house. And
Yeah.
other people can get on board or not. But it's
Hmm.
really about you, your spouse, your children, and that's the nucleus that's most important. And you need to walk in confidence in that, and it'll be
Yes.
okay.
That was amazing. That was great advice. Now I'm trying to figure out how I can see these questions because people are posting them
She's like, now
and
let's
they're like,
see.
"Can you see my question? Can you answer the ones that I put before?" And I'm like, "I'm looking for them." So I'm like looking down, like, okay, I'm not the best. Can y'all see the questions? So, gracias. Did my comment come in? Yes. Let's see. Okay. Hi there. My question is, do you solely do online learning for them or do you also do in-person classes as well? Let's see. Yeah, solo or also do you have also do you either of you have experience with prep scholarships or homeschool funding programs?
Okay,
Okay,
so
the first one was um, do you solely do online learning for them or do you also do in-person classes as well?
so
Like
the
maybe.
quick
Mhm.
The quick answer to that is I am in California. So I'm a PSA, which is a private school. I'm not a part of a charter. So just real quick, I'll touch upon that. For the first year, because we had so many things I wanted to detox, I
Mhm.
wanted them to solely hear from this house. I wanted the teaching to come from this house if we were teaching that day, if we weren't. So I chose to go for the first year solely just me, an online program. Other things I chose to supplement from workbooks, and then truly just life, like putting them out in life. Those have been our teachers, the world and this household and online. I do have other people who are part of charters and they do a little bit online, but they're part of a charter. So their kid kind of checks in. They have a little moderator. Um, so they kind of have like an online class. It's kind of like in person that way ish. That works for them just fine as well. You do have that as an option. You can also put them in other like tutoring classes or like co-ops. We've tried co-ops, has not worked for us as well. But I mean, just because I think my kids are so fulfilled, they're
Mhm.
good, you know. So, and that's another thing I want to stress, like, don't feel like you have to. That's the first
Yeah.
thing I hear. As soon as someone pulls a kid out, do you know a co-op? Maybe don't know a co-op right now. Maybe
Yeah.
just get back to center, because that
Yes.
opens up a whole nother situation with the co-ops. And if you
Mhm.
already don't know where you are, where they are, who they are, how you feel, that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
So, so I would say for us, it's been fine just doing it online. We use, I don't know if I can say it, but we use Me Academy. I love it. They love it. That's the one they add, but we tried a couple of different ones. Don't feel like you have to settle right away. So we tried a couple of different things.
Yeah. Yeah, please
So
feel free to share
yeah.
resources. Like sharing is
Yeah.
caring.
Okay,
So
well, so we
it's
use Me
there
Me
feel
Academy has
free.
been a godsend. I mean, as
Yeah.
a teacher, it's so funny. I was using a video to teach a concept from another curriculum, and I said, "This was a really well-formed video." I said, "I really thought as a teacher, I could see like how they hit all the points." And then I found out it was a whole program, and I said, "Okay, so Mia Academy is what we use, and I'm very happy with it." So as far as in
Nice.
person, people have been happy both ways. My opinion is for first year, especially, why don't you just kind of keep it at the house?
Yeah, and do that whole deschooling.
Do the
She was
deschooling.
also asking about PEP or prep scholarships or homeschooling fundings. There is funding in California, is that correct, for homeschoolers,
So
private
we
school?
looked up a couple of things. Some things, if I remember correctly, are what do you call that? Income based. Some of it's going to be
Mm,
income based. So
okay.
that depends on what your income is.
Mhm.
So because of that, we didn't qualify for a lot of different things. I do see I follow a lot of threads where people are able to find like deals because you're a homeschool parent. We are with, and I do recommend this. You get with HSLDA, which is the
Mhm.
Homeschool Legal Defense Association.
I love them.
It's super cheap. to have that a year, but have that in your back pocket, period.
Mhm.
And so they have like a lot of deals on there. So I find that for me, it just worked better to find deals and financial, what do you call those? Not gifts. Oh, my mind's
Just
drawing a blank. With offers, like they
discounts?
have offers, like
Okay,
discounts and
discount.
offers. Yeah. So
Mhm.
we kind of search more from there, but I'm more than sure there are people who it wasn't as many, I have to be honest, because that's the first thing I look for is money. And it wasn't
Mm,
as many as I thought would be out there for homeschooling people without a lot of stipulations. So that's going to really be an
right.
individual search based on your individual needs and what you have.
Yes, and it
So
differs from state to state
and it
because
yeah,
some
and it differs
states
from state to state. And this is the
provide
whole thing.
funding, like, for private schools in general, and if
Yes.
you're considered private schools,
But let
so
me tell you the trap in
mm,
that too is that's why schools are like they are because
mhm.
they're so busy trying to get the money that they compromise. And this year
Absolutely.
I refused to compromise. So I don't want to have to put my kids in something where we have to check in a certain time, where we have to go back to testing, where we have to, they have to present so many articles of this, they have to prove so many hours of that. It depends on your needs. And for me, I didn't need enough to put them through what I had just taken them out of in just a different form. That's kind of
Right.
how I did that. So
I love that.
it's going to be a search, an individual search, I think.
Mhm. I agree. Let's see. Do we have more questions? I'm like, okay, here we go. Comments, questions. Okay. How old were your kids when you started homeschooling? You mentioned it, but recommendations on starting in kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
We are starting, yeah. Uh,
So
okay,
my
this is a long thing. So I'm like,
like, oh, there's a lot of questions.
I got a lot yeah, it's a lot. It's like multiple questions in a
Okay.
post. So, yeah. So the first one, how old were your kids when you started homeschooling?
They were a fetus.
Yes, that's how
That
I felt.
I started from jump. I think that you're never, and that's coming from a teacher's background. You're never too young to start learning. So when you say
Exactly.
kindergarten, hit it like hit it. I'm just
Yeah,
like once again, and that's a lot, and it's so fun at that age because everything is new, and they're just
it
one big
is. They're so
sponge.
sweet. I mean, they're a sponge and
Yes.
learning is fun. They like learning, like you said, is life.
Hmm.
It's not some
Hmm.
chore. It's not
Right.
something that you do. It's just who you are. It's like
Hmm.
your essence.
Hmm.
As babies come in the world, everything is new. Everything's like they have to learn to walk.
Everything.
They have to learn to like nurse. They have to
Yes.
learn how to, read a book. I mean, everything. They have to
Yep.
learn this is color blue. This is a flower. I mean, everything is
Yep.
learning. So it's just like their essence is
Yes.
learning. So it's not tainted.
Mhm.
Yeah, because
It's the
I
purest form of curiosity. It's the
yeah,
purest form of
yes.
responses. So I would say
Mhm,
you're never too young. Start in kindergarten, start before kindergarten. Kindergarten is like to me the easiest time to start because it's literally
mhm,
just when you go to they learn the colors blue from the ocean. Let's go to the beach today. This is blue. This is smooth.
mm,
This is wet. This is sun. This is hot. This is
yes,
cold.
yeah.
And just think of look at the sensory things you just taught them. Look
Mhm,
at the ecological things you just taught them. This is an animal, this is joyful, this is like you can just teach them so many things by living life, and what you're then teaching them is the world is their classroom, not just a book
exactly.
and a workbook and a desk and be still, and and what are your impulses? That's an impulse, you felt
Yeah.
that, why is that? So now you're teaching socio emotional, you know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
so kindergarten, yes, start now.
Yes.
Start now,
Like you
you yes,
uh,
do that.
yes. Like you said, start in utero. Like I
Start in
was
utero.
telling one of my other students that I started teaching my children in like the womb. And he's
Yep.
just like, you can't do that. I mean, like I have twins and my
Yep.
doctors were like, okay, full term for twins at 37. I'm like, 37 weeks. I'm like, not my twins. They're going to
Mhm.
be in here for 40 weeks. And I'm like, I don't want to
Mhm.
see you until
They
40
hear
weeks.
you.
They
Yes,
hear you. And it's
girl.
funny because at that time I had one cesarean, so I scheduled another one. But after
Mhm.
that, I had home births at home, which was great.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, so I had VBACs after that. But my twins, they were like trying to schedule me in March. I'm like, I'm not scheduling them until after their due date, which was April
Mhm.
19th. So I scheduled them for April 20th, and I went into labor on April 19th. which
What?
happens to be, yeah. So they came exactly at 40 weeks. And that happened like over and over. Like, for instance, in utero, I love my sleep. Like, if you wake
Mhm.
me up from sleep, you're not gonna get this lovely face. You know, you're gonna
That's my
get
daughter. Yes.
someone green with warts and fangs, you know?
Yes, that's my
So
daughter. Like, "Please let me asleep."
let me see. So when I got pregnant with my first child, I was like, for the first few weeks, I had to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. I was just like,
Mhm.
oh, no, 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 no. You can't do this. Like,
Mhm.
I have school, I have work. I need to get my beauty sleep. So you need to figure
Mhm.
this out. Like, I'm gonna have to wear a diaper. I am not getting up in the middle of the night. So all of a sudden it stopped after I talked to him. It stopped.
I'm
When I
trying to
had
tell
my
you.
emergency cesarean, my doctor was like, "Where is your bladder?" So they found my bladder all the way up here to the
Are you
side.
serious? The
I'm
baby's like, "Mm, okay."
serious because like the whole pregnancy I slept through the night. I didn't have
Okay.
like urgency to go to the bathroom. And so she had to remove my bladder and put it back where it was, not remove it, but
Shut it.
just
We can't
move it.
move it back over, yeah.
Yeah, move it back where it she was like, "I've never seen that before." The twins, it
I'm
happened
trying
again.
to
My
tell
bladder
you.
was off, but they're just like, you don't have to go to the bathroom. You're not waking up." No. I was
I try and tell people all the time. And it's so funny. I just told a young lady who wants kids, and I said, "Who they are in your uterus, who they are when they come out, is who they are now. Like you, if you have the blessed amount of time to spend with your kid in utero, you will find out they were telling you who they are then. Because my
exactly.
daughter, when she's in like areas she's not really comfortable, she is very quiet. She didn't. My son spoke to me when he was in like just a
Mm,
constant chatter. We talked.
yeah.
That's how he is now. My daughter was really quiet. I'm like, "Girl, you still in there?" So when it was time to give birth, my son was 2 weeks late, and she was like a couple of days, like a week late. And I finally said, "Via, are you okay?" I said, "Do you not know how to get out of here?" So I said, "I want you to," and I said, "I want you to follow my hands." And so I started moving my stomach in this circular motion down to the uterus, and I
Mm,
push. I did that a couple of times, and I said, "That is how you get out." I said, "You are safe. You can come
mm.
out." I went into labor 3 hours later. She had been a week late,
Wow, that
and
is powerful.
they
But they
hear
listen.
you.
They hear you. They
They
listen.
understand. So start
It's like
teaching
can
now.
read to them in utero. They learn the
Yep.
voices. I mean, it's
You
amazing. You can
sing.
develop their palate.
Yes.
So, they're just like, how do your children eat all these vegetables and all of that? Like, how are they
Mhm.
vegetarian? That's what I did in the womb. You know,
Very nice.
that's
It makes
all
a
they
difference.
know. It's like, but then I'm just like, what did you eat in the womb? Oh, I ate pasta, rice, and meat. What did your child eat? Pasta,
Pasta,
rice,
rice,
and meat.
and meat. Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
true. It's true. I mean, so
rice
when you
and
talk
meat,
about
vegetables.
education, if they could be sponges in utero and you could teach them in utero, you can teach a child how to go into labor. You know what I
Yes.
mean? You can
Yeah,
teach your child some educational tools. You got this. Like, you
exactly.
got this. It's the
You
easiest and most natural, instinctual thing to do.
yes, absolutely. Okay, we talked about that earlier about recommendations
Mhm.
if your spouse is not aligned with homeschooling.
The
So
homeschool
you recommended
awakening.
a really good, yeah, Homeschool Awakening, a great documentary that can really help. And then I'm
Mhm.
sorry, she was saying it's PEP scholarship. Yeah, if you
I
were
don't know about
familiar
that
with
one.
that. Yeah,
I'm
I'm
not.
not familiar with that either. But this was great. Can you tell us a little bit about your businesses? You know, I know you're acting, but you're bringing
Mhm.
forth, giving birth to some newness.
I am.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start a blog and a YouTube channel, maybe a podcast eventually called Just One Mom's Perspective. And the reason well, not me, but God kind of inspired me is because I would talk to people. And even as a mom new to homeschooling, but not new to teaching, I would notice I'm getting the same questions. And then when I
Mm,
give people answers, they're like, "Oh, that's just so mind blowing." And I'm thinking, that seems pretty basic. Like, is that mind blowing? Is everybody stuck at some of the same points and seeking some of the same exact answers? And maybe can I, and I do have, I must say, I do know I have a gift, which is why I was a teacher. I can take really complex concepts and I'm able
mm,
to put it in really simple terms where people are just like,
mm.
"Oh," and that's
That's
been a
genius.
gift. Yeah, it's a gift from mine. So I said, well, maybe I'm meant to take some of these complex navigations because I am starting to see on these Facebook threads and homeschool. People are like pulling their kids out daily. I just saw one recently.
Mm.
My kid, we're done. They're out. Like people are just like, we out. Like Harriet Tubman, we done.
Yeah.
But But the fact is they're jumping into it, and maybe because it's such a, I don't want to say knee jerk, it's just finally the stick that broke the camel's back, right? And
Mhm.
they haven't been able to really delve into it as much as they would have had been a conscious choice, like,
Mm.
they were working toward it. So when I'm seeing these abrupt exits, I'm like, okay, people have a lot of questions, and they're thinking, I just need to replicate what I've heard someone say. I just need to replicate what we've done, and we'll be good. And when I get these questions based on that, and I give these answers, like kind of like the conversations we're having, I see these people almost like, their eyes are watered, they're weak, they're like, it's not as complicated, or you know what, I was getting ready to go a different direction, or maybe I just need to slow down, and my gut, it is okay that I'm following my instinct. And so I just found that maybe I have something to give in that
Yes.
space.
Yes.
So I will be birthing that this year. So
I
I'm still
love
praying
it.
with God, like, are we sure? But he's like, girl, what I tell you. So okay, we're gonna do it. Then I'll give it a try.
I love it. I
So
love
we'll
it. I
see.
love it. I love it. So, how could people get in contact with you if they want to know more about your story, more about your blog and your YouTube?
There's I have my regular, and don't say I'm old. It is a Hotmail address. I know. I get that all the time. You still have Hotmail? I do. So you can use my Hotmail account to contact me, and then from there, as I begin to um put out the Just One Mom's Perspective blog, and I'll be able to send some things through that and bring you into that. But just, I would say, in a couple of months you can start searching for that. It'll come up. But until then, you can use my email address and ask me any questions. I'll do my best to answer. I would say I am not a professional in the sense of, say, I'm a professional homeschooler, but I am a person who does have some experience behind me, and I
Mhm.
do feel like I'm a person with an intuition about a great amount of things, and have a passion. I have a passion for kids, to advocate for them, to advocate for who God wants them to be,
Mhm.
and as a parent, who He's assigned you to be, and maybe
Yes.
helping everybody reach that at the same time in their fullest way possible.
Yeah, love it, love it, love it. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Yeah.
And thank you for all of, like I said, those gold nuggets, all of
Mhm.
those gems that you
Thank you for
dropped on
having
us.
me.
Because, yes, you're welcome. It's been our joy, our pleasure. And also, when you have your blog or YouTube, please feel free to post it in the
Okay.
community. Yeah, sharing is caring, and we would love to support you
And let
and
me
see
just give
what
you
you're
your
doing.
props. Can I just say real quick before you exit? Thank you for creating, and I told you this on the phone, for creating a community
Oh,
that has serviced me so much. As a mom
oh,
coming in and like not knowing what to do, your community and what you allow people to post, and what it has been a blessing. So thank you for
oh.
doing what God's put in you. And that's served, and that's provided a way for me to put forth something else for other people. So thank you for
Yeah.
being you, and for providing
Oh,
this for everybody. Thank
oh,
you.
it's been a joy. Thank you so much. And so, really quickly before we leave, we have some gifts for you, family. So, we have, if you're interested in making the world your classroom and world schooling, stay
Yeah.
tuned because we have a free success guide to world schooling for you. So,
Oh, I love that.
stick around. But thank you so much
Thank
again.
you. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody. Good luck. Happy homeschooling. You got this. Go do it.